Welcome back to the news at 10. We're staying with our lead story tonight. 18 persons lost their lives to an explosion at the Abule-Ado close to Festac Town in Abule-Ado local government area of Lagos State. Lives have been lost, buildings burnt, and just disaster spread across the entire community. Earlier, we had the Lagos State Emergency Management Agency Director General, Dr. Femi Osointolu. He was here talking about what the Lagos State government and the response team have been doing to control the incident. Let's get some more insight into this still. This time I'm being joined on the news at 10 by a Professor of Urban and Regional Planning and former Dean of the Faculty of Environmental Studies at the University of Lagos, Professor Leke Oduaye. Thank you for joining us on the news at 10. I'm sure you have a lot of thoughts concerning what has happened today. Do you want to share some of them with us?
Yeah, thank you very much. I think first, let me commiserate with the Lagos State government and the families of those that has been affected. But unfortunately, in our environment, and coincidentally, one can say Lagos is one of the most developed parts of this country. And I will tell you that majorly is a social problem, but
what is a social problem?
It's a social problem. People are unemployed. People just have to survive. And that's the social problem aspect of it. But practically, it's a planning problem. That if you have a society that refuses to do town planning, one, it's not because I'm a town planner, but it's the problem. Because this is a city-state. That is a state that is predominantly occupied by a metropole, which is the Lagos mega city. Okay. So the nature of problem that the land use will encounter will be different from other states that we have, where we have more lesser towns and settlements. So there is always need to reconcile frequently, to reconcile the use of land, because there is a way land behaves. There is a relationship between land behavior and human attempts to survive. And this is what is manifesting in the frequency of all those urban shocks that we have in Lagos. We had the Otedola, it was due to traffic. We've been having so many fire explosions due to pipeline issue.
So what's playing out in the situation in Abule-Ado?
Like Abule-Ado, it's an urbanized area. And I think the major thing is there should be synergy between all the agencies involved. Because when you have that territory, one can define it as federal government territory. That is under federal government NNPC. But there should be synergy between NNPC and Lagos State. Lagos State has a standard. But what we've been able to gather is that it's not even a case of building encroachments. But the explosion now led to buildings very close to the place being affected. And that is where the planning problem comes into it.
You think the people who built houses there, you think they know that that area is a pipeline?
Yeah, as at the time they build those houses, the place could still be maybe not as developed as it is. But by the time you now if you are working on your urban planning frequently at the interval of 20 years, and within that 20 years, you review it at 5 years intervals, because we have so many factors that will lead to reconfiguring the land use. And it is in the process of preparing or reviewing the land use that you will track those uses that will likely endanger the people living there. Now, this thing might sound, but it has been very difficult for governments to comprehend the need for frequent review of their land use.
Yeah, okay, so government does have laws, because I know that they do. The Lagos State government does have laws governing town planning. And, when disasters like this happen, they will show you and say, yes, they do have the laws, for these things. But then how are you going to enforce it? I mean, if for example, a disaster like this has happened, what now? I mean, that's when, these laws tend to come into force, with the government saying, people shouldn't have been here in the first place. So what's the enforcement supposed to be like? The fact that there are houses in that area, should they be demolished? Should people be relocated? Or what happens?
Yeah, Yeah, what's supposed to happen is that government is the enforcement of the law. And I think that is a laxity on the part of government. That if you do your planning as at when due, at the frequency of, let's say, 5 years, you review. And if there is need to resettle some people in certain areas, you give them adequate compensation. Then you make provision where you need to resettle them, where you have to pay them off. And I think these are things that are not really at play. That at times government will come up with, in fact, government slip over all these things. They might track it, but for them to now implement in terms of paying compensation or trying to resettle the people in appropriate locations. So they'll just slip over it as if a miracle will happen. Whereas these are things that are supposed to be done with practical applications.
In other words, it is everybody's problem, and everybody
has
a responsibility.
Because of the society we find ourselves, that governments shy away from using the power of eminent domain. In planning law, government has the power of eminent. Government can do anything with land. But the condition is that you have to pay adequate compensation. Government has the right to review any part of the city. It's just like if there is an ailment in your body, and you are working in an organization, and once the doctor reports to your MD, then you subject yourself to adequate treatment. So that is the power government has. To the extent that if you refuse to move, they can take you to court. And court will now order police to move you. But government has to play its own part by providing adequate compensation.
Professor Oduwaye, I wish we had more time to talk about this. It's a recurring problem in Lagos. Thank you again for joining us on the News at 10. Your thoughts and expertise are really important. Professor Lekki Oduwaye, the former Dean of the Faculty of Environmental Sciences at the University of Lagos, as well as a Professor of Urban and Regional Planning.